Today, whatever our reasons, we take the first steps toward a new future for humanity.
If you've never played a Mass Effect game before, don't worry about it. You don't need an in-depth knowledge of the original trilogy to dive into Andromeda. The choices made at the end of Mass Effect 3 have absolutely no bearing whatsoever. That's because the characters in this game departed the Milky Way in 2185, the same year that marked the start of Mass Effect 2, meaning it's entirely possible that even the Andromeda fleet has zero knowledge of what happened to the original protagonist, Commander Shepard, or the fate of their home.
We fight or we die.
Andromeda is a soft reboot, taking place 636 years after the events of the original, and in a whole other galaxy at that. Now we're in Andromeda instead of the Milky Way. But despite this being a relatively clean slate, there are still a few things you should know.
We made it.
2.5 million light years away from home, you play as either Scott or Sarah Ryder, twins who are part of what's known as the Andromeda Initiative.
Life in Andromeda can be anything we dare to dream.
The initiative sent scientists, explorers, and civilians to settle a brand new galaxy.
If it's what we hope it is, it'll be one for the history books.
Scott and Sarah are members of the Pathfinder team, a group of soldiers and scientists trained in diplomacy and combat, charged with charting alien planets. They are referred to as the tip of the spear that subdues any threats on these new worlds, as well as the cartographers that fill in the blank spaces on the map.
Once in Andromeda, the Nexus and Arcs will rendezvous in the Helios cluster.
In Andromeda, the base of operations is a huge space station called the Nexus. It's based off of something called the Citadel from the original trilogy, an immense deep space station that served as the political and cultural heart of the old galactic community.
Inspired by the Milky Way Citadel, the Nexus is a smaller, streamlined space station.
The Nexus is inhabited by 5 races from the Milky Way that make up the diverse Pathfinder project. The relationships you forge and the choices you make here will have consequences on a wider political stage. Then there are the inhabitants of the planets that you're attempting to colonize. Given that the Andromeda Initiative is essentially a mass intergalactic migration, those natives might have something to say about the droves of aliens arriving on their doorsteps.
No more mercy. Kill them all.
So just who are these intrepid settlers? They're being hauled in cryosleep on the centuries-long journey to Andromeda inside 5 spaceships called Arcs. All of the races featured prominently in the original trilogy, so if you're new, it pays to have an introduction to each.
Sam, are you monitoring? Sam?
The Asari were the earliest beings to grasp the ability to travel into space, and as such were looked to as leaders of the Milky Way's galactic society. As well as lifespans that last for thousands of years, they are gifted with biotic powers, the ability to generate fields of energy that can tear enemies apart, or form protective barriers around allies.
I didn't know you were biotic.
Don't worry, it's not contagious.
Asari can also successfully mate or reproduce with any other gender or species.
Whoa.
Even non-amphibians need a little water.
Logical and unemotional, Solarians are sort of like Star Trek's Vulcan, but a tad more tetchy. Their minds and bodies work on overdrive compared to other Milky Way races, functioning on just 1 hour of sleep a day, so they can seem a bit hyperactive. Still, they're invaluable engineers for your squad, thanks to their intelligence and flair for invention. If Solarians are Vulcans, Turians are Klingons. These military powerhouses are known for their strict discipline as the armed forces form the backbone of their society. While they can be distrustful of humans, Turians are invaluable in combat and will be loyal companions once you've convinced them to throw their assault rifle behind yours.
I can do a lot of damage from this vantage point.
Krogan numbers are thin after nuclear war and a biological attack all but wiped out the species.
I'm Drag, Clan Nakmor.
Still, physically, Krogan remain tough tanks with thick skin and a robust internal anatomy, including backup hearts, lungs, and even 4 spare testicles.
Why would anyone want Krogan testicles?
Battle-thirsty and blunt, Krogan will never be the diplomats of Andromeda, but will be worthy allies or considerable foes in combat.
Do you have any idea how many humans I've watched die?
Andromeda takes place in an uncharted corner of the universe, teeming with new life forms to forge diplomatic relationships with, and, since this is Mass Effect, perhaps something more. Romance has always been a big part of the series. Home to multiple species with diverse sexualities, your starship provides opportunities to get to know one or two members of your crew better than others. But you need to be careful. Crewmates who see your private quarters might not respond kindly if you show them to others. Remember what I said earlier about your choices having consequence in Mass Effect? That applies here too.
2 people blowing off steam. No strings attached. Only if there's no strings.
With this knowledge under your belt, you should be all set to blaze a path through a new galaxy as Ryder in Andromeda. If you still want to see more though, we've got you covered with everything Mass Effect on IGN.
Are all the riders adrenaline junkies?
I guess it's in our blood.